Want to explore this more with George P. Bush, of course, the former Texas Land Commissioner. Commissioner, always great to have you. Thanks for coming.
Good to be with you.
Let me ask you a little bit about that. If I interpreted Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, correctly, what he's petitioning for is that New York City, a sanctuary city that welcomes illegals and, migrants, illegal or otherwise, he wants that to apply to the state. That's how I'm reading that. What do you think of that?
Well, yes, the beauty of the federalist system allows for cities and states to make their own direction, but the reality is that the source of the problem lies with the federal government, and that's why many, including in my state of Texas, want this administration to get more serious and to change their policies so that we tighten the border, expedite the asylum process, and work in a way in which Congress, for once, will create a process by which it's easier to come here legally than illegally. So I will allow New York to figure out their situation. I just know that by the last estimate in New York City alone, that at $5 million a day, Mayor Adams has said, we're going to share that burden with the rest of the state of New York. And so for people like in Texas, we say that that is essentially a drop in the bucket. We are right behind me will be appropriating billions of dollars on an annual basis to not only secure the border, but deal with the administrative aspects of this historically high tide of illegal immigration. And so it's high time that whether it's blue states or red states, that we recognize this is a national security issue that affects safety and health within our communities. And hopefully we can come together on this and have an administration that will reverse its policies to strengthen our country.
There's a message on TikTok right now that's apparently been viewed more than 96 million times, George, in which, just cutting to the chase, it's telling those the world over, May 11th, you cannot be deported. Title 42 has come to an end in America. What do you make of that? That is going out to a world of refugees seeking protection in the United States.
Well, it's a crisis in leadership. We've seen this the last 2 years. This is nothing new. Yes, records are being broken daily. In fact, there's an estimate today that there will be 13,000 encounters. But Neil, to put this into context, we only have 19,000 border agents. And when I talk to Border Patrol leaders, they tell me that half of their frontline folks are doing the paperwork and taking care of children. And so even if everybody's forward deployed, and with 1,500 coming from the Department of Defense just this week, that's just, it's not enough. It's not sustainable. And so we need leadership that counteracts these narratives, whether it's on social media or from Central American countries or from Mexican drug cartels that are profiting from this historically high flow of human and regretfully fentanyl trades and other illicit activities. And so it's a little too late, but what we can do is reverse the policies, keep Title 42 in place. I understand that in Congress there are some Democrats willing to work with Republicans to just temporarily keep it in place, help our Border Patrol backfill these honorable professionals that are trying to secure communities, whether that be on the border or ICE. But right now, Neil, the fact is that, as long as you get in, there are rumors that there are selective releases into the country without any kind of requirement to appear before a federal immigration judge, in which case the incentive is still there for people all over the world to come to our country and to do so illegally, because it's easier than to wait several years to do it the legal way and the honorable way.
One of the features of the new plan the administration wants to put in place after 42 ends, George, you probably know this far better than I, that, if they catch you at the border trying to sneak in, and, you're not going back, of course, that you're forbidden to even try for 5 years. But if you voluntarily go back and say, all right, you got me, you could try again without any details on how soon you could try again. But what do you think of that?
I think it's good in principle, but it's going to be awfully difficult to execute. And the reason why, Neil, is that prior to this administration's change, and this was the case before, that at least when people were processed through our ports of entry and other locations in which folks are coming across and getting their notice to appear, we at least grabbed some of their personally identifiable information. And now my understanding is that the tide will be so overwhelming that there's going to be selective areas along the border that we will release people without issuing that notice to appear before a federal immigration judge. So we can say that we will empower ICE to go out and interdict folks if they're here illegally, whether that's overstaying a travel visa or just coming through the border and applying for asylum. But in terms of execution, we won't even have information on the tens of thousands, now hundreds of thousands of people that will come across on a monthly basis. And so that's the challenge. So we need to work on the source of the issue. That's working on a multilateral basis with countries in the Northern Triangle. Several Democrats have stepped forward, including Congressman Quayle, to advocate for creating processing centers south of the border so that if folks honorably want to come here the legal way, they can do so in their country of origin, and to restore a sense of security, because we just don't have that. And the secret's out of the bag, and the incentive is for people, whether that's the individual trying to come across or the cartel that profits in the order of several thousands of dollars for every person that they transit across the border.
Meanwhile, we have this debt ceiling crisis building, and President Trump had said last night in the CNN town hall, I don't know if you caught it, that he thinks Republicans should hang tough, and that if they don't get their spending cuts, go ahead and default. What did you think of that?
Well, as a fiscal conservative, I honestly was slightly disappointed with the plan that was passed to the House. I understand Speaker McCarthy has tremendous pressure just to gain a winning coalition to get some sort of plan. My frustration is with the other side, because while they speak a big game about how we want to put people out on the streets, they don't actually come forward with proposals on their own. And the reality is, Neil, we've spent trillions of dollars under the Biden administration, and that alone is unsustainable. We're close to spending $1 trillion more than what we're bringing in as a government.
But do you recognize default as an option to force the issue? That's all I'm asking. I mean, that's what President Trump was saying. If they don't budge, that is Democrats on this, go ahead and default.
Well, that's, as you know, his style of negotiation. I think ultimately he would, even himself, would try to close a deal towards the end. And there's nothing wrong with being cavalier about it at this stage. But we only have 2 weeks left. Investment grade quality ratings. But you don't think default is an option? Just to understand, George P. Bush doesn't think default is an option. It can't, because we already have been downgraded from AAA down to AA, and we risk our investment grade credit quality. And if we lose the flight of capital to the U.S., where people from all over the world invest, that's problematic for our economy when we're trying to recover from a highly inflationary time period.
All right. George P. Bush, thank you very much. Good catching up with you.